Arkanoid Doh It Again is probably my favorite block breaking game that I've played so far in the genre. The gameplay is simple. You pilot a spaceship, intertwined in a galactic war against an evil, interdimensional, ultra-powerful space entity known as Doh. Oh yeah, and you break blocks. What, you didn't know that little paddle thing over there was a spaceship? I mean, look at it. Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. This is actually a Super Nintendo game that, interestingly enough, doesn't really get talked about that much. And maybe even more interesting is that it didn't even get talked about that much upon its release. That game is Arkanoid Doh It Again. No, that is not in a spelling. It is actually supposed to be Arkanoid Doh It Again, not Arkanoid Do It Again. And yeah, the title might have you wondering, what is Doh? But don't worry, my friends. We're going to get to Doh. Okay? We will get to Doh. But first, a little backstory. You see, this game is a sequel to the 1986 original arcade release, which had all kinds of crazy ports. Here's a list of the ports here, but for our purposes, the port we want to focus on is the original Nintendo Entertainment System port. Because while this game is a sequel to all the ports, honestly, it's more really a sequel to the Nintendo port coming out on the Super Nintendo. Oh yeah, and one more thing. This Arkanoid sequel is not to be confused with the Arkanoid sequel that came out 1 year after the original Arkanoid Revenge of Doh. That one was honestly more like a 80s version of a DLC rather than an actual true sequel. Which really kind of the true sequel, Arkanoid Doh It Again, came out almost 11 years later in 1997. So yeah, pretty big time span between the two. And that 1997 release date actually has a lot to do with why this game wasn't talked about that much at the time of release, and why this game, in my opinion, never became as popular as maybe it should have. You see, 1997 was an interesting year for the Super Nintendo. It was really at the end of the game system's lifespan, because just a year prior, the Nintendo 64, the successor to the Super Nintendo, just came out. So for the Super Nintendo, a lot of games that got released that year kind of went under the radar because all the hype was on, well, the newer system, the Nintendo 64. And that fateful year is when Arkanoid Doh It Again found itself being released. So let's talk about the game itself. Arkanoid, like other games before it, probably most importantly Breakout from the Atari, is basically just what you would expect, a block breaking game. However, Arkanoid Doh It Again is probably my favorite block breaking game that I've played so far in the genre. The gameplay is simple. You pilot a spaceship, intertwined in a galactic war against an evil, interdimensional, ultra-powerful space entity known as Doh. You fight for the very fate of humanity itself. Oh yeah, and you break blocks. What, you didn't know the little paddle thing over there was a spaceship? I mean, look at it. It's pretty obviously a spaceship, isn't it? Okay, maybe we should start with the story. The game opens with a large spaceship. It is the 11th Star Dawn, and you and your crew are looking for a new habitable planet to settle on. Your sensors pick up on a potentially inhabitable planet, and so you send your scout ship, which is what you're going to be playing as for the rest of the game, to go and check it out. Your joy is cut short as you soon realize the planet was just a ruse from the evil Doh, a Lovecraftian space entity who looks like a Giga Chad version of an Easter Island head. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this guy's been looks maxing. You go on to fight Doh and his forces, and you accomplish this by breaking blocks, destroying enemies, collecting power-ups, and fighting bosses. Oh yeah, did I mention that this block breaking game has actual boss fights? Well, it does, and honestly, they're pretty cool. Honestly, I think the boss fights in this game are one of the things that separates this one from a lot of the other block breaking games out there. They offer the perfect fun and interesting challenge to kind of break up the monotony of the other brick breaking levels. Honestly, when I first played this game, I was expecting pretty much just a straightforward Breakout clone with better graphics. The boss fights really caught me off guard the first time, and I think they're really what makes this game one of my favorites in the genre. To get to the boss fights and all the other regular levels, you're going to be using your energy ball, obviously. But also you get other power-ups along the way. You can make your paddle ship longer, you can make it move faster, you can make the ball move slower, there's multiple balls, there's sticky balls, all kinds of fun power energy ball things, right? But my favorite, perhaps, of all the power-ups is the lasers. Who needs a dumb little energy ball that bounces around when you can just shoot stuff with lasers? Honestly, I love the lasers in this game. They're my favorite. If you're really having a hard time getting through something and you get lasers, it feels so good. Because you can just really go and hone in on that one block that for some reason you can't seem to hit with the energy ball. Just freaking shoot it with a laser, man. It's way better. One other reason I really love this game is its ability to just help me relax, right? When I play this game or other simple games like it, like Tetris, which is another favorite of mine, I feel like I'm just kind of in a state of zen, right? It's just a simple gameplay loop that goes. You don't have to worry about crazy story. You don't have to worry about side quests. You don't have to do any kind of insane puzzles. It's not trying to be a crazy emotional experience. It's not competitive PvP where you feel like you suck if you can't move up in the rankings. It's just simple, straightforward. You break some blocks. you move your paddle, you make sure your balls don't fall. And every once in a while, I think I really need a game like that, right? A game where you can just play it and it's straightforward, it's not complicated, and it's fun. I think these kind of games just take me back to a simpler time in childhood, when there was no online gaming, you didn't always have friends to play with, and sometimes you just put in a game and just played it, just for you. In fact, maybe another reason I like this genre now that I think about it is that my very first cell phone had a Brick Breaker game on it. You see, I had a BlackBerry. It was one of those BlackBerries that had the little trackball, if you remember those little trackballs that you roll around and whatnot. Well, that trackball happened to be perfect for a Brick Breaker game. So yeah, during my teenage years, I had a lot of fun playing on that little BlackBerry, playing the Brick Breaker game. Along the way, throughout the levels of Arkanoid Doh It Again, you also get to see some fun characters. Some of the levels will actually be designed as pixel art characters from other Nintendo games. In total, the game has about 99 levels, but it kind of repeats in sets of 33. So after the first 33 levels, you have your kind of final boss fight. And then it kind of repeats again with a slightly altered story to 66 levels. And then you have the final 99 levels. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it increases in difficulty with each set of 33 levels. The last time I played this game, I just stopped at kind of the 33 level mark. That's kind of like the soft ending, and the rest of it's kind of like post-game, extra harder type stuff that you can do if you really feel like it. So my final thoughts on Arkanoid are this. It's a fantastic game in the block-breaking genre. It's a perfect game to relax after a long day of work, or maybe even play on a handheld emulation device. It makes for a great mobile gaming experience as well, actually. The boss fights add just the perfect amount of challenge and variety in between the regular brick-breaking levels that you've come to expect from the genre. If you can find a way to play this game, if you can pick it up physically, or if there's another way you can play it, I totally recommend it for sure. Definitely give it a try, guys. It gets a thumbs up for me. This is honestly one of my favorite Super Nintendo games, which for a lot of people might sound kind of weird, but to me it just really hits home and has this perfect mix of relaxation and challenge. Thanks so much for watching the video, guys. If you enjoyed it, if you enjoy this type of retro gaming content, please hit that subscribe button for future uploads. Also hit that thumbs up button, you know what I mean? It helps out a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. Do you have any fun memories of Arkanoid or any other similar Brick Breaker type game? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear those stories, guys. I love hearing what other people have to think about the same games that I've played. See how our thoughts compare. All right, guys, thanks so much. Have a good one. Later.